Right, in this video, which is requested, we're going to look at creating the illusion that light is being cast on the subject of your photo through window blinds, using the displacement map to bend and wrap the shadows of the blinds around the subject in a realistic 3D fashion. We shall use a colour balance adjustment layer to create a more convincing light source. So to start off with, we're going to open the image Paint Splash JPEG in Photoshop. We're going to create the displacement map first. So a displacement map is just simply a black and white image in PSD format that Photoshop uses to determine how to move and reposition pixels. We need to create a black and white version of our image. So we'll use Photoshop's lab color mode, which conveniently separates the luminosity or the lightness values of the image from the color. So to start off with our image open, we're going to go to the image menu and along to mode and then straight down to lab color. So once we've done that, once you convert your image to lab color mode, we've separated the lightness values from the color. So if we go to the channels panel to see exactly what has happened, you'll see that the channels listed lab, lightness A and B. The lightness channel contains all of the lightness values of the image, while the colours have been separated into A and B channels. The top one, the lab channel, isn't really a channel at all. It's just a composite of the lightness and the colour channels. So when we're in the channels panel, we just click to select the lightness channel, and then you're going to see your image immediately turn black and white. If we right click, we can then choose duplicate channel. Once we have duplicate channel to the fore, we can change that document destination because we're basically creating a new document for the displacement map. So we choose new, and we can actually rename the document at this point. So I might just give it a suitable name and then click OK. So now you'll see that we have two documents open on the screen. So I've got the original, which is what we should end up with. So I have the lightness and I have the actual DM that we've just created. So the next thing we're going to do is to bring up our layers panel, pressing Command and L. So just make sure that you're on the layers panel. So we're actually going to bring up levels, and we're just going to increase the contrast of the image by dragging in the lightness and the darkness sliders. So that it's just beyond the edge, and this obviously will lighten the lightest parts and darken the darkest parts. So now the image appears to have more contrast. So just click OK to exit out of that. So to make the shadows bend and wrap around the subject but exclude the background, we can fill the background with solid white so that that area will not be affected by the displacement map. So to do that, we need to pick up a selection tool. I'm just going to use the magnetic selection tool for the process, and then we can just let that tool run around the subject. So it doesn't have to be all that accurate. So again, just run right the way around. And this tool is working particularly well because it does like contrast. And then when you get back to where you started, just double click and that will bring that selection to the fore. We need to invert the selection. So I'm press Command Shift and I, or Control Shift and I, and then we can go to the edit menu and choose edit and fill, and we're going to choose to fill with white and click OK. So once we've done that, we can just Command and D or Control and D to deselect, and then to remove the harsh transitions between the light and dark, we're just going to add a blur. So if we go to Filter, Blur and Gaussian Blur, and then if we have around about 6 to 7 pixels for that blur, that should work well for this image, and OK. and at this point you can save the displacement map. It does need to be saved as a Photoshop file for a displacement map to work, so just make sure the format is Photoshop and then you can click on save. So once you've got this far, we can go back to image and mode, so back to our original paint splash, then go to the image menu mode and return to RGB color. That obviously brings the color back into our image. So now if we look at the channels panel, we can see that the channels have been returned to red, green and blue, and the composite being RGB at the very top. We go to the layers panel and click to create a new blank layer, and then we're going to use the rectangular marquee tool, and then we're just going to simply click and drag a stripe out the top of the image, and then back to the edit menu and choose fill, and we're going to fill that with black and then click OK. So we have a selection running. If we hold down the shift key, then that is going to just keep everything straight. Alt will duplicate. We need the move tool selected. You can press V on the keyboard for that, and then we can just drag down, and then you'll see the dimensions so that you can accurately place your image next time that you drag it out. So then just keep dragging, because we want all of these to be on the same layer, and drag out another one, place that there, and then just keep going all the way till you complete that down to the bottom. And once we've got all of these in place, important to Command Shift and D, or Command and D, Control and D, depending which machine you're using, in order to deselect the last of the rectangles. We then go to our filter menu, so working on layer 1, that's filter blur, and choose Gaussian blur, and then this time we can blur around the 9 pixel mark and click OK. And then once we've done that, we can go to the filter menu and then choose distort and displace. So this dialog box lets you choose how much impact the displacement map will have on your image. And we do this by entering values for the horizontal and the vertical scales. So in this image, we don't actually want the pixels to move horizontally. So for the horizontal scale, we'll have 0, but we do need them to move vertically. So we'll have 20 added in for the vertical scale. Ensure stretch to fit and repeat edge pixels are both selected, and then click OK. And then the software will prompt you to load your displacement map you've just created. So we double click on that, and then we get this effect where we can see that the bars are starting to take shape. We need to lower the layer opacity because it's just a little bit too strong, so if we just take that down to around about 35 to 40%, something like that, maybe a little bit too much at 42, so round about the 40%, and then we're going to add a colour balance adjustment layer to the top, and that will add warm sunlight to the scene. So we choose colour balance, and then working on the mid-tones, we can target the yellows and then just add some yellow into the scene and a little touch of red. We can target the shadows and again boost the yellows and a little touch of red. And then we can target the highlights, and again boost of yellow, and again you can take this as far as you want it to go so that we have that nice sunshine feel. And then if it's just the colours a little bit too vibrant, you can always tone down with the opacity slider in the layers panel. Okay, so that is the completed project. I hope you've enjoyed watching and have fun creating your own version.